You find opportunities everywhere. Everywhere I go, I see opportunity. How? I tell you. If you are a researcher, you will find opportunity in anthropology. What is anthropology? What did Britishers do to India? I will give you one. It's a big industry if you want to try. When Britishers came into India, they developed a school called Oriental School. But before doing that, they developed a new profession called anthropologist or anthropologist expert, anthropology. They developed a new discipline. What is this anthropology? They were called the people who study the culture, who observe and study the culture. They are called anthropologists. And these people are considered big researchers. Their approach is very scientific. They cannot be wrong. They are more closer to the fact and truth. So this kind of myth they created in the name of anthropology. And after that myth was created, they developed a school called Oriental School in London as well as in India, in Kolkata. And they sent new recruited civil servants to India and study here anthropology. They also sent certain anthropologists to India to study Indian culture, Indian society, Indian history, everything they could. They observed. Observation and writing is also a translation. It is also a language. Because you are transferring from one to another. So it is what is culture, studies. What they observed? They didn't observe, the richness that India had. They observed the miseries of India. They observed the strength that India had in their, self-sufficient unit. Every village was almost self-sufficient. Because they had their own legal system, they had their own handicraft industry, they had their own agriculture, they had their own traditional technology, which were par with Britain. They were competing with Manchester at that time, right? And Indian textile. You read Sasi Tharoor, you will understand what I'm saying. So all these things, they studied and they translated where? Into their own language, English. And they took it to London with what we call it Eurocentric bias. And they depicted India as a rustic India which had no law. Manu Smriti was considered, a bad law for India. The Indian history was considered barbaric before them. The architecture designs were considered, of no use. Taj Mahal as well as the mandirs and temples, the architectural designs, which is competing, which is unique in its sense. Take medicine, traditional medicine, Vedic, medicines. They are the best because they do not give you side effect. Science, Ramanujam, mathematicians, and Aryabhat is prominent example. Literature, writers like Kalidas and Surdas and Tulsidas, they are all known facts. They were all considered useless, archaic. And whatever interpretation which they did in terms of their thoughts was then from there it was translated into Europe, in Spain, to France, to Germany and other corners. And India was slowly and systematically called a barbaric India. And parallelly, the plunder took place from 1800 onwards till 1947 or till today. The English language was introduced. Railway entered into the veins of India and plundered everything. Municipality was introduced in India. The local system was demolished. English become the elite language and unifying language, imposition, this is what is called. The religious scriptures, although they were quite sensitive, India was sensitive to religion, so they didn't touch much. But still, they had taken lots of pain to install churches everywhere. I'm not against any religion, though. But, I'm talking about colonization process. There is a thought process in colonial studies, if you go into translation as well as language studies. There is a language of protest. There is a language of colonial, writings. All these things, they are still considered second grade. So there is another opportunity as an entrepreneur and a researcher. A researcher can become entrepreneur. If you want to do research in this area, you can create 1,000 books, hire 1,000 people, a full-fledged $1 million project. Similarly, when we talk of sociology and culture and history work together in languages. Legal interpretation, law, there is another area of entrepreneurship waiting. Our own election commission since 1947 till today has produced only manuals in English. It has to be translated into all these 30 languages or at least 10 languages of India. There is an opportunity. Medical field, medicine, Ayurvedic medicines and these Vedic things. It has not been translated well into variety of other Indian languages. Scientific text, which is written in English but not in Indian languages. Opportunity is there. Now everybody wants to go local. If you have a purchasing power, you come to India, and if you talk to a villager in his language or her language, you know how to manipulate his mind and sell your product. So social media thing, silently manipulates, you as well as your thought process and sells you things through advertisements. Silently gives you free and slowly poisons your mind and sells the product. So there is another opportunity. Similarly, if you want to do the same thing into global market, you need to localize and then internationalize and globalize your product. Talk to their language, adapt your language as well as to translation to their localities. You can't sell a Barbie doll, white one, in Latin America or in Africa where the black beauties are more important. So you have to customize those Barbie dolls into black colored beautiful girl there, right? Similarly, there are a variety of nomenclatures that takes place, brand names take place, international branding is there. Opportunity is abound, my friend, for entrepreneurs as well as for professionals. Similarly, diplomacy. I mean, if you read a language and a foreign language including, you can play a big role, in that particular community or a country for India. I recall I was working for, a Peruvian embassy long back when I was a student. At that phase of time when I was doing my master's, luckily I had the opportunity to appear for entrance examination of the School of Diplomacy, Madrid. And I, as a language person, was able to develop capabilities in international relations also because I was working for the Peruvian embassy and doing political research and international research, etc. And that enriched my knowledge. And I was able to crack that examination. And I feel happy to inform you that so far that examination has not been cleared by anyone. How I was able to do it? Because I expanded my horizon into international relations. So you as a language person, if you parallelly develop your capabilities, in other areas, you can develop a big bridge, or you can become a big ambassador, stimulator, intercultural mediator. But the problem is, we as a language professional, we remain, in a closed set of thoughts, from language structure to rules and rules to grammar, and from grammar to word and sense to sense, and then translation. It is a tool. So if you have a tool in your hand, why not use it for other avenues? If you don't use it, who will use it then? And if by the time you start thinking about it, you have lost the touch with your language. And if you start studying international relations, you will not be able to write what your thoughts in that particular language. If I have studied Spanish, I should write everything directly into Spanish, no? When I'm talking about international relations. If that capability we carry forward, I can assure you, your students or your own self, you can do wonders in life. I have been trying to do it somehow. Although I am a learner, I continue to learn, not achieve too much, but I live a comfortable life. Earning is quite decent, and I have control on my own time. If I don't want to do anything, I just say I am off today. So I am not bound by any boundaries, This has happened because luckily I was able to make use of my language capabilities and expand it into variety of areas, including whatever I have talked to you, do experiments in life, very important. So there comes the opportunity for language learning and acquisition. Similarly, expansion I'm talking about, horizons. There is another horizon, and there comes, policy and administration. Language, again. When you are making policies, why you are writing in English? Why don't you write directly in Hindi or Tamil or Telugu or whatever language that you have, so that everybody can consume it well? This is a time when everybody wants things in their own language. So there is a high demand, but the supply is not coming. So can you imagine the demand there? If you become a supplier for that particular business or opportunity, you are an entrepreneur. Similarly, social media analysis. There are a variety of thoughts coming into picture. There is a software being developed everywhere. People automate social media. They catch information, and it is being used at variety of forums, including diplomacy as well as share markets. Smart people who are share brokers and investors, big investors, they analyze social media and they predict what is going to happen tomorrow. And based on that, they either enter in the market or exit in the market, and they make big profit, millionaires. I have just given you one example of how this social media is being used. But I and you, we go there and chat, share certain comments, certain jokes, photographs, and feel happy when we have some likes, right? But there is a big people. There are some good number of big people sitting there analyzing everything. If suddenly something happens, across the globe, you will find Twitter, you will find Google, you will find Facebook, you will find WhatsApp, all, exchanging messages on those points. So the smart people, they gather, the movement and note the graph where it is going, volume, the more volume on certain topic, there is a more opportunity there. The less volume, there is less opportunity. So they take it as a signal and they plan their strategy accordingly. So there is another opportunity, my friend. Similarly, data analysis. This is part of data analysis. IT, all these tools, manuals, structures, etc. Directly develop, tools in Hindi, directly develop tools in Tamil, French, Italian, whatever language you want. Do innovation, make use of artificial intelligence. Even artificial intelligence need information, certain basics on which they work on. Without that, they can't do anything. Innovation comes into picture. I will tell you, I was lucky enough to inaugurate an institute, one Center for Language Innovation in Punjab Technical University in 2012 when I was advisor to the university. They told me to develop something unique, and that Center for Language Innovation was involved, and it was developed and is already there. So its role is to find out opportunities in languages, make use of innovation and technology, and help the government, state of Punjab or state of Haryana or state of or even central government, in developing variety of projects for multilingual development or multilingual access of information, research, opportunities, and whatnot. So these are all points of opportunities which I believe you should make use of. Now there is another point that I want to come and discuss is, there are two cases that I have for you. One case is, I have explained all this, what is to you, what is traditional thought, what is how language is developing, and how translation has also, developed, how it is expanding, what is its role, localization, globalization, a big business, multi-million business. Translation broadly encompasses interpreting also, because I bring that into the similar kind of discipline, although it is a specialized area. You need to have lab, and there is a big difference. One is typing and writing, and another is speaking. But broadly, it is different from linguistics, and it comes under translation and interpretation studies, right? So now what is coming is, recently there is a grouping of certain experts in languages and translation. This is called Asian Association of Translation Industry. I am part of that group as a founder secretary general, and its headquarters is in Bangkok. So we have worked, to create, like a center for, language and translation under the aegis of ASEAN, ASEAN. This is a grouping of Asian countries like European Union, and there is a possibility to develop, free trade among all these nations. India is external part of it. So ASEAN, Secretariat, after we pursued, have developed, ASEAN MTI Center. There the focus is to do translations and interpreting. Center has been developed, funded, director, secretariat, everything is there. Now there are certain section of linguists, people from linguistic discipline. They are advocating that ASEAN should now get diverted from being considered as a part of translation to linguistics. The reality is, linguistics was passed in 1960s when equivalence was the role, there. Linguistic has given rise to translation, and translation has integrated itself with all these, points that I have discussed: culture, sociology, history, law, medical, localization, diplomacy, and whatnot. So it has become a multidisciplinary activity, and it is totally a different ball game. Linguistic is giving more research-oriented human resources. Translation is generating employment for millions of students and language people, right? So do you feel it is worth to talk about transferring this or bringing this whole episode into linguistic studies. Number one. So now the second course study is, Asian. For example, we have, this new education policy has given an opportunity for language community to develop Indian School of Translation and Interpreting, right? The idea was that it will become a kind of center where, those policymakers who were involved in that, in fact, I had given a white paper on that, they added that into new education policy. But after the policy has been announced, the idea was that there will be a world-class, university that will stimulate research, writing, thoughts in translation, language, and all the related areas, applied languages, right? But unfortunately, the policymakers have decided to forget foreign languages and get into, again, Indian languages, and converted Central Institute of Indian Languages into Indian School of Translation and Interpreting. Conversion is a good thing. Making opportunities of existing, building and infrastructure is again a good thing. But the way it is being, implemented by ignoring the big multi-million business of foreign languages in India, which can generate, Indian products, globalize Indian products, internationalize Indian products, has been ignored. So now my question to you is, how you tackle all this? You need to have a professional, team. You need to have a lobby. You need to have a pride in whatever you do. And if you don't have this, there are vultures sitting there everywhere. They come and grab. So Britishers have already gone, but there are more Britishers available in the system everywhere. So you, as a professional, language professional, if you are not sensitive enough to all these points that I have explained it to you prior as well as now, I believe we will continue to face problems. We have to remain professionally united, feel pride in our profession, make our students more confident by giving them variety of options and opportunities, orienting them, motivating them, so that they feel confident about it. In सब चीजों का ध्यान रखते हुए, we should think of, as a language teacher, that you are not only a teacher, but you are also a person who is interacting with a young mind, and that young mind must be given certain food for thought, especially for contribution to the nation. Number one, as a linguist or as a good person, for the society, as a parent, as a citizen, as a responsible citizen of the country. So I believe, there is a big opportunity waiting. The only thing is you need to, locate them, divert them, and inspire people around, especially your students. So with this, I would like to conclude and thank you all for your patience listening.